We're going to have setbacks. I have them. Dan has them. If you're listening and watching, you have them. The only difference is we're broadcasting it. I would rather you spend 10 hours on the former activities I talked about than 30 hours on the latter. I love joint ventures. You've heard me say this probably a gazillion times inside of our community, but when I view a potential joint venture or a partnership with the right person, it's exponential. It's 1 + 1 = 11, not 1 + 1 = 2. Try to place yourself there. How many times in the course of a triathlete's mind do they think about quitting? Do they think about stopping?
You want to, but it's just not an option.
Bingo. I couldn't have led you there better if I tried to do it again.
Right.
That is what I want to leave us with today, and that's how I want you to view your storage journey. You ever had something significant happen in your life, and it could be a blessing, it could be a huge challenge, obstacle, or roadblock, and it completely derails you from your goals, from your plans, from the things that you were working so hard to accomplish? I want to invite you into a conversation with Dan Wentzel, who's not only a friend, but a coaching client, somebody who's part of the Storage Wins community, somebody who, if you've been following along on season 2 of the Storage Wins podcast, we have started from the very beginnings, what he was doing before storage, how he got into storage. And Dan has been diligently working towards his first deal. And there have been a lot of false starts. There's been a lot of highs and things to celebrate, from getting under contract on deals to lows where deals fall through. And sometimes he just feels like he's running in quicksand, or he's not really making progress, or feeling like he's making progress. And then doubt starts to creep in. You start to question yourself. You start to ask yourself, is this going to happen for me? Can I even do this? And then that's when you have a community of the right people that need to lift you up and pull you back in. And hopefully you have that. But I want to invite you into this conversation because Dan and I were just talking, and I challenged him. I said, hey man, let's just take the gloves off. Let's remove any filters. Let's be as real, honest, authentic, and genuine as possible. Because Dan has essentially, and I'm going to let him tell the story because his story is going to be better than anything I can share with you. But ever since he had the baby at the end of 2025, he's had far less time that he's been able to devote to storage. And as a result, there's been a lot of positive that has come out of that. And there's been some challenges. And so now that I've set that as the foundation, now that you have that context, I'm looking forward to this conversation with Dan because he's had to take a step back and he hasn't been as plugged in as he typically is. And in my mind, I'm kind of viewing this as an opportunity to hit the reset button, recalibrate, address some mindset challenges, maybe get tactical and roll up our sleeves. There have been a lot of things. I've watched and witnessed Dan grow and progress throughout the last year plus. And he's not going to give himself credit for that because he's in it. He probably doesn't realize it. I have, despite some of the challenges he's going through, despite some of the mindset things. And I think one of the benefits and one of the reasons I'm proud of Dan, I'm proud of the fact that he had the courage to put himself out there. And quite honestly, for me to put myself out there too, is that this is life in business, right? It's not always going to be wins and peaches and rainbows and unicorns. Like, we're going to have setbacks. I have them. Dan has them. If you're listening and watching, you have them. The only difference is we're broadcasting it. We're putting ourselves on Front Street. And I believe that you're going to see the real and it's going to resonate with you. At least that's my hope. That's our intention. And most importantly, my goal here is to help Dan and to inspire you, to help you, because you might be in a season of life or business right now where what you want is not happening. If anything, you feel like you're taking one step forward, 2 or 3 steps back. I've experienced that, and it's because I've had the right coaches, the right community. I've immersed myself intentionally in the right environment, that when I'm in a rut, I start with gratitude, which that's exactly what Dan and I did before we hit the record button. There's a laundry list of things that he and I are grateful for. Start with gratitude, and then you shift from the internal to focusing on you to the external, focusing on others. So with that being said, Dan, that was I don't know, man, 4 minutes of an intro, which was not my intention, but I it was just what was on my heart, what I wanted to share with you and with those watching and listening. So uh man, fill in some of the gaps. I feel like I set the stage now. Where are you? Where are things since the baby was born? You know, you've had things have just completely shifted in your schedule and in your life. Talk to us about where you're at today with regards to storage. And I want to start with the things we can celebrate. What are the It's easy for us to talk about, hey, I used to invest, 15 or 20 hours a week on storage, and now I'm investing a fraction of that. And it's easy to perceive that as a negative. I want to challenge you to reframe and rethink about why that's a positive. What are some of the things that we can celebrate as wins as a result of, aside from the fact that God blessed you with a beautiful baby, healthy baby? I mean, that's obvious. That's the first most important thing, because without that, it's like storage doesn't matter, right? Clearly. So we have that. But as it relates to your storage business, you're working far less hours. What good has come of that?
I would say I've been collaborating more, having the support of the people around me, not to go right into a plug for storage wins, but having those people around me to keep me going and hold me accountable. I've started collaborating with some people from the group a lot more closely than before, and knowing my time is more constrained, I saw that as a way to help all of us. So I'm working with a few others now who are also a little constrained for time, not as much time as we'd all like, but together we've been able to work on a lot of deals and make offers together and learn from each other going through the process. And that's something I don't see myself doing if I wasn't so reduced in the amount of time I have to work on storage each day, each week. So
Yeah.
that's a huge win, and I really enjoyed that, and I think it's helped me move forward further on some deals that I wouldn't have seen or been a part of since we're working together on them.
Yeah, I love it, man. Did you have that awareness about some? And by the way, you just mentioned one, but we can keep going. I think there's a lot of things that positively have come out of the fact that now your hours are reduced. Have you found that it's forced you to think differently about how you want to approach things because you don't have as much time as you did before?
Honestly, I feel like I was pretty efficient with my time before and working on the right things. And as you've mentioned before, the time during the day is focused on revenue generating activities. And that's what I was focused on, with calls to owners and offers being made. And um, it's just kind of reduced that time. So I'd like to say it's forced me to work smarter, but I also believe I was already working pretty well with the time that I had. So
Yeah.
it feels mostly like I've just been reduced in the amount of revenue generating activities I can do, but
Yeah.
it's forced me to lean on some others and into that collaboration that I've learned a lot from. And I think all of us, there are three others in particular who I've been working more closely with. I think you could ask any of the four of us and we'd all say the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, man, I think that illustrates the power of leverage, because we all have the same amount of time in every day, right? I don't care how wealthy you are. I don't care your skin color, your size, how tall, short, big, small you are. We all got 24 hours in a day. And so the fact that you have far less hours to work with now, no pun intended, you can amplify or multiply your efforts through others. And that's why the book that I have probably referenced more than any book. I've been podcasting for pretty much a decade now straight. And one of the books over the last at least 2-3 years that I think I've alluded to and referenced more is Dr. Benjamin Hardy's Who Not How. Who Not How and The Gap in the Gain. Those two books, same author, highly encourage you to read it. The fact that now you are working with others, you're able to leverage their skill sets, their strengths, their time. Now, yes, naturally, are you foregoing some of the upside in future deals? Yes, but I could also argue on the flip side, maybe you would have gotten those deals without them. Not because you couldn't, but I don't, maybe they found the deal that now because you guys are collaborating and working together. I mean, there's always, here's the big picture, the big idea I want everybody to walk away with is no matter how challenging of a season you feel you might be in, when you shift your thinking, there is always positive and good that comes from it. If you open your eyes and you're looking for those things, you will get what you are searching for. And look, the reality of the Dan situation is, for context, Dan, how many hours were you averaging pre-baby number 2?
It was about full time. It was 6 or so hours a day.
Okay, so let's just call it 36 hours a week, let's call it 30 hours a week, because I don't
30 hours a week.
Let's call it 30 hours a week, and now you're
about 10.
Okay, so a third of the time. So
Yeah.
So look, I think in many ways, man, this is a blessing because 10 hours, it's interesting. Everybody that's come into the community, sometimes people ask me like, hey, Alex, how much time do I need to devote to storage? Well, the famous 2-word response is, it depends, right? Everybody's different. It's hard. In storage, there's rarely a black and white answer. And I say that tongue in cheek, but I think 10 hours is a good sweet spot. When I got started in storage, that's about what I was putting in, 10 hours. I think it's less about the quantity of the time that you're spending and more about the quality of the time. How are you using and maximizing those 10 hours? Is it focused, tight, efficient work on revenue generating activities, things that really move the needle, having meaningful dialogue and conversations with storage owners, brokers, and wholesalers, evaluating deals, making offers? If your 10 hours a week is spent on those activities that move the needle, then you're going to gain progress and momentum, provided that you're consistent with it. Now, if you're spending that time, like fumbling around on Google Maps and in research mode, and like in those 10 hours, you have no conversations, you might analyze 1 or 2 deals and you make no offers, then that's not a good use of 10 hours. But I would rather, here's the punchline. I would rather you spend 10 hours on the former activities I talked about than 30 hours on the latter. The person that works more efficient and more tight on the things that matter, you're going to accelerate faster. I'm betting on you every day and twice on Sunday. If you told me, hey, it's 10 focused hours and these are the things I'm working on, versus give you 30 and it's all scattered. Okay, so I want to kind of frame that. That's the window around this conversation here. So having said that, tell me a little bit about the collaboration with some of the Storage Wins members. Like, how did that come to be? And how has that shifted how you think about collaboration, working with people? Because I remember there was one point where, if I can not call you out, but just bring this out, I remember there was one point where we have something called the gold mine list, which we hired a virtual assistant and we trained her on our process for going out to Google Maps and finding mom and pop storage owners. And it took her about close to a year. And we have mom and pop storage facilities in 48 out of 50 states. And there's over 13,000 records in there with contact information. And I just gave it to everybody in our community, Dan included. And everybody was super happy and grateful for that, because it's a valuable tool. It's a valuable resource to have. But I remember, Dan, you expressed some concern. It's like, well, man, it's like, now everybody has this list. And when I say everybody, I'm talking about those in our community. And while I understand why that comes up in you, it's coming from a place of scarcity. It's coming from a place of, like, if we have, 40 or 50 or 60 people looking at 13,000 records, it's like, how does this work? Right? But the fact, we had a conversation about it, and I know you grew from that. And the fact that now you're collaborating with some of those same people, I'm curious, talk to us about how that collaboration, the partnership, the joint venture came to be, and how you might be thinking about others in terms of collaboration versus competition.
The way the collaboration is working is, I think we all complement each other. It's 3 other members of Storage Wins who have been a part of it for a while now and are familiar, have some momentum in self-storage and underwriting deals. And strategy for talking with owners and closing, for those who had more experience with real estate, and it I reached out to the other three of them actually, because I know they had been working together on at least one deal together, and I said, hey, I going to be reduced in the amount of time I have to work on storage, but I wanted to see if there's any way I could help you, if you could help me, if it's worth trying to see how that might work out. And they were open to it. So it's not etched in stone that, we're going to do every deal together, but we wanted to at least go in with the right mindset, talk through the concerns of any partnership when you get into it, and just be all on the same page about if any partnership goes south, then we go our own way, but at least we want to be upfront with that, and then go into it with the right mindset. So
Dan, you know what? I wasn't planning on this, but I think it's one of the things I love about hosting a podcast is just the fact that you can just let the conversation happen organically, and we can ride the wave. And while this wasn't the intention of this show, I think it would be extremely valuable and insightful for anybody that is watching or listening, because I enjoy collaborating with the right people. When there is an alignment of core values, mindset, and when we have similar goals and we can complement each other, I love joint ventures. You've heard me say this probably a gazillion times inside of our community, but when I view a potential joint venture or a partnership with the right person, it's exponential. It's 1 + 1 = 11, not 1 + 1 = 2. And if you can't make it equal 11, then maybe that's not the right person to be collaborating or joint venturing with. Can you talk a little bit about, and I'll fill in some of the gaps and share what I recall from that conversation, but I remember when the four of you came together, you shared it with me. I believe it was you and maybe one other person shared it with me. And naturally I was excited and happy for you guys because the four of you are incredible people. And I believe in many ways you complement each other really well. And then naturally I had some, I wouldn't call them concerns, but I was like, hey, have you guys gone through the process of having the difficult and potentially awkward conversations up front? Because 4 people, I mean, a partnership, 2 people can be challenging enough. Most business partnerships, I would say, don't last. Sometimes people have differing visions. Sometimes they're just not aligned with their goal. I mean, there's a lot that can blow up partnerships. Now we're talking about not 3 people, we're talking about 4 people. And so naturally I was like, okay, well, have they had the right type of conversation to ultimately determine if this really makes sense? And I remember I'm like, my job as your coach is not to tell them what they want to hear, it's to tell them what they need to hear. And we have to be willing to lean into difficult conversations. And I remember reaching out and saying, hey, I think I sent the group text, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
I think I sent the group text and I'm like, hey, you guys available to hop on a Zoom? And I think we made it happen that day. And it was 5 of us. It was me kind of sharing my thoughts raw and sharing some experiences that I've had. And to your guys' credit, you guys were very open-minded. You came with an open heart. You heard me out. There was no spirit or thought that I got from anybody like, oh, Alex is trying to shut this down. No, it was the opposite. Can you share from your perspective and from your vantage point that conversation? And let's keep, obviously, those that are listening and watching in mind, because I'm certain there's going to be people that have had their experiences with partnerships or joint ventures. There might be others that are thinking of partnering with somebody. And we can have a whole nother podcast episode on all the reasons not to partner with somebody. And usually people dive right in because it's like, hey, we're buddies and you're doing this and I'm doing this and hey, let's just do it together, right? From your perspective, how was that call and what did you get out of it?
That call needed to happen. And it was a great way for us all to be on the same page going into it. And it's a conversation that can be uncomfortable because you're talking about what you don't want to happen. You don't want to turn your partnership into you four not liking each other, or however many people are in the partnership. But it's a reality. We're all human, and it's natural to have conflict between humans. And it's just to get that all out front before we get too deep into it and we don't like each other and we want to get out of a deal that we might all own together. Then just being on the same page as far as not diving in to say, okay, this is it for the four of us. We're all going to do every deal together that we do for the rest of our lives, but to take it one at a time, be open-minded and aware of the reality that that partnerships most don't last in business, is my understanding. So just all being aware of that and having the conversation up front was really healthy. And we all benefited from that. And even after all being cautioned, or I guess you could say, we still thought it's the right move that we could all help each other out by starting with the first deal, see how it goes, reviewing some deals together, see how we collaborate and connect and help each other. And it's just all gone really well. And I think you could ask any of the four of us about that. And we've just enjoyed working together and learned from one another.
So I've heard the same exact thing from every single person in that group. And I remember sharing with you guys several things, and it's like, if you're willing to have the difficult and awkward conversation up front, you're going to avoid a much, much more difficult and awkward conversation potentially on the back end of a relationship. Because let's be honest, people don't get into a deal together and say, hey, this is going to be terrible. This is going to go horribly wrong. Like, no, everybody has high hopes, and I believe it's the partnerships where you don't have the difficult conversation, where you don't have a meeting of the minds, where you don't set expectations, because that's when disappointment occurs, when expectations aren't being met. And then also making sure that you guys have, it's my core belief that God gives us all talents, like the parable in the Bible. Our job is to amplify and use those talents to help others. And it's important that when you're going to consider joint venturing or partnering with somebody, number one, date. Don't get married, date. Start with a deal. Maybe 2 deals, 3 deals. Make sure that you guys understand not only that there's a core value alignment. This is somebody I want to work with. We think alike. We elevate each other. We can make 1 + 1 equal 11. But do that on several deals before you decide to go out, tie the knot, get married, create a business together. That's a whole different animal. And I'm glad we had that conversation, because I think initially you guys were maybe considering hey, let's just combine forces. And I much rather each of you maintain flexibility that, we'd love to do a deal or 2 or multiple deals together, but you also have the ability to be able to do your own deals. And I think you get the best of both worlds. And I think when you have the conversations and everybody's just very upfront, and then if you put it in writing so that you don't forget in the future, or whatever the case might be, then everybody's on the same page and you're operating with the right spirit. And I love it. I love the fact that you guys have come together. I know that you've been under contract on, is it 1 or 2 deals that you've been under contract?
1, almost 2.
Almost 2, right. And that one, and then two of the people from that group went out and performed due diligence and realized that, hey, maybe this isn't the deal we thought. And so while that deal didn't cross the finish line, it's my belief that sometimes the best deals we do are the ones we don't close. With every opportunity, Dan, you're getting better, you're getting sharper, you're learning, you're growing. Now, you want to taste victory. I get it. You want to cross the finish line. Marathoners and triathletes, and I know that you have a lot of experience. I mean, you ride the bike a lot, the road bike, and so you put in, 100+ miles for whatever you put in. You want to cross that finish line, and this is no different. But the only way you have an opportunity to cross that finish line is if you stay on that bike and you keep pedaling. Right? You decide to get off, you're either delaying or you're never going to cross it. And so that's what I want to encourage you with. I want to go ahead and put a pin in this particular conversation, and then I want to pick it right back up, because you've been going through some mindset challenges. Is that fair to say? Like you kind of feel stuck?
Stuck? Yeah, that's a way to put it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how I'm curious, how would you put it?
Stuck, discouraged.
Okay. Stuck and
Yeah.
discouraged. Okay, got it. So I want to go ahead and let's have a conversation on the next one, and let's talk about how we get you from stuck and discouraged to unstuck and confident. Okay. And I don't want to set the expectation that that's necessarily going to happen in one conversation, although you may have the breakthrough you need. But I just want you to come into that conversation. Just come with an open mind, open heart. Let's view everything you've gone through over the last couple of years as your training ground to get you to this point, not as, hey, I'm worse off because I've spent all this and I don't feel like I have anything to show for it. So I think how we view this and how we frame this in terms of our mindset is going to be the difference between you crossing that finish line or not crossing the finish line. It's how you view it. You know, I truly believe it's been said, and I don't know who said it, but most things that we pursue are going to be mostly mindset. Yes, there's 80-90% mindset. Like you've been you're a triathlete, right?
Yep.
Okay, how many races have you gone through? Is that the right word, races? I feel like that's not the right word for it. Competition.
I guess so. Competition events. Yeah.
Yeah. How many you've been through? More than one?
Dozen or so.
Oh, a dozen. Okay, so you've done more than most people walking the face of this earth. Obviously, in that, I mean, of course, there's a huge physical component to it. I mean, you're testing your body. How much of it is mindset, though? Think about it. Try to place yourself there. How many times in the course of a triathlete's mind do they think about quitting? Do they think about stopping?
You want to, but it's just not an option.
Bingo. I couldn't have led you there better if I tried to do it again.
Right.
That is what I want to leave us with today, and that's how I want you to view your storage journey. You may want to, but it's not an option, because the only thing guaranteed is that the way this doesn't work is if you don't continue to work it. Okay, so with that being said, brother, I'm grateful to kind of get back on the bike, to use an analogy that you're gonna appreciate and resonate with, because you're still riding, right? You're still putting in your miles. Okay, so I want to put a pin in this particular conversation. If you're not subscribed on YouTube, on the Storage Wins podcast, and that could be on Apple, Spotify, all the different podcast platforms out there, make sure to do so. We're gonna pick up this conversation on the next one, so make sure that you hit the bell, hit the subscription button, whatever it's called, so that you get notified. And I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Thanks, Alex.